Alright, just to go ahead and level with you, I can't attest to a goddamn thing in this video being listenable, watchable. It's probably going to be disconjointed and all over the place, but after the past few days, I think I just want to take the time to really relax and collect my thoughts. Again, I said I was going to be experimenting with a few different video styles, and for this one, I'm just going to use my normal speaking voice. I don't really have a script prepared at all. I originally had a script. I spent the past 3 hours of the day just writing a script to go along, just to really collect my thoughts, but every time I started writing it down, it just always devolved into this overly personal mess that I don't really want to put out online because it's more like poetry. It's discombobulated all over the place, and only I'd really be the one to understand it. It's cathartic writing at its finest, but I wouldn't really consider it an art like I would consider these other videos, which I suppose if you want to push the definition, this really wouldn't be an art form like the other videos either. This is just more of a podcast style format, more like a decompression chamber for me to air out my thoughts. Speaking of which, I've avoided the issue for long enough. This little stream of consciousness is about Satsuki, and partially Illya, but mostly Satsuki. I rolled Neza, I believe is how you pronounce it, in Fate Go yesterday, and this is definitely going to be one of the only 3 times I mention this on the channel, because I don't want to talk about FGO on this channel. There's a million other places for that, and I want to make more unique content, as fucking pretentious as that sounds. But yeah, Satsuki looks like Neza, and so naturally I just have her on the mind, you know? Before I continue, the recording stops when I finish this cup of coffee I just made. It is currently 3:50 in the afternoon. My hours are fucked up from editing that last video, so here we are. Beautiful morning. Beautiful morning. Where was I? Oh yeah. So, Neza looks like Satsuki, and as your certified, professional, one and only YouTube Sachan simp, I believe that's the case, I don't know. Sorry, Manpig, I haven't watched your Tsukihime videos in a while. Don't recall if you're a Satsuki simp or not. Probably not. There's like, she has like 2 scenes in the visual novel. 2 scenes which, honestly, kind of impacted me immeasurably. You know, pretentious sounding again, but those scenes really are... Well, it's more than 2 scenes. She got 2 CGs, but those 2 scenes are emblematic of what I liked about her character, and by extension, Illya's character, because yes, do gotta tie this back into Illya month, somehow. But Satsuki. Alright. To really get in the mood, I don't know if you can hear my mouse scrolling at the moment, but I'm just going to listen to the entire Tsukihime soundtrack. Not the entire Tsukihime soundtrack, just track 1, Feelings. Oh god, not the Ever After version, not the Ever After version! That's the worst version of the soundtrack, by the way, which I could talk about that at length. At length. It's overdeveloped, it adds too much to a soundtrack that was already wonderful to begin with, and in tracks like Feelings in particular, it takes away that beautiful string instrumentation and just slap strings everywhere, all over the track. I'm listening to it right now and I just want to throw up. Figuratively speaking, it's not that bad. It just devalues what was there. And I feel like that's the common case across the entire soundtrack, except except for when you get to track 8 and track 9, conversely known as Tsukihime and In the Moonlight, which is different across all 3 versions substantially. The original release, of course, has a beautiful sounding piano melody. Track 8, let's focus on track 8, and then I'll talk about In the Moonlight a bit. So, track 8, in the original, MIDI OST, released in the year 2000, was a little beautiful, really heavily compressed piano melody that, God, I wish is found somewhere uncompressed, because I really do love the way it sounds, and it's still present to an extent in the other releases, but just the sole focus on the piano adds a lot to the scenes, and that's not really carried over to the other versions, sadly. The other versions do have their merits, though. The Tsuki-Bako release, which came out in 2003, has more of that. It's still simplistic. It still follows the general basic structure of the song, but it added the and forgive me for decimating your eardrums. It's been a few years since choir, but it added the da 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 da, except in the proper key, which I guess the proper key would be dum 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 ba da ba dum. I'm just fucking humming at this point. Anyways, it added that little part at the beginning, that iconic melody that, honestly, if you didn't play with the original OST, you probably just hear those first 4 notes, and you immediately think, oh yeah, this is Tsukihime. It's an iconic piece, and works well within the context of the visual novel as a whole, but I can't help but find myself thinking that in scenes where a piano melody would be more fitting, that soul piano melody, mind you, which I believe it played in scenes like the true end of the Arcuate route, where she was explaining things about Roa, that played it there. I think the soul piano piece works much better in that environment, because it's Arcuate just telling things. It's her on her own explaining everything, so the piano would be her on her own. And that's not to say that at the end of the scene it isn't her and Shiki, but at that moment the two are isolated, and that fits much more within the context of the scene. There are instances where it works, however. The Akia route, for instance, which I haven't released the CL video yet, but I was way too harsh on the Akia route. It is heavenly in comparison. And honestly, the Akia route is weird, because I keep thinking about it in retrospect, and it always moves back up to my top spot in retrospect. It's odd like that, which I hate what Kagetsu did to the true ending of the Akia route, and making it a more Shiki's definitely coming back kind of ending. Like, that devalues things, much like the normal end for Heavensfeel, where you never really truly get a grasp of if the character's moved on. It being a symbolic thing worked wonders, and I think messing that up totally defeats the point. Anyways, what was I talking about? Music? Satsuki? God, I'm just all over the place with this. This is Illya month. I'm supposed to be talking about Illya. Oh well, we're already here. Let's keep going. To wrap up my point about the soundtrack, track 9, again, In the Moonlight, is objectively just the best in the Ever After OST. It fits in every scene. It fits the context of the scene that's played in much better. In the original visual novel, which I say that like there's a remake out, but there's clearly not, but in the original visual novel, the 2000 release, it was just a bum bum ba da ba. It was just that over and over, that one single measure just repeated ad nauseum. I know what they were going for, and that's just generally something like a more subdued piano piece, more so than the track 8, but it just fails horribly in translation. And while I can listen to track 1, Feelings, all the damn time, and only mildly go insane, listening to track 9, In the Moonlight, in the original OST is just mind-numbing. The Tsuki-Bako release, again 2003, added onto it by adding a lot of embellishment. That embellishment, again, comes in the form of the ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da, that, which played at the beginning of track 8 in the Tsuki-Bako release, but instead, now, it's used in a more subdued manner. It's the backing track as opposed to being front-loaded. It's something that makes you feel more isolated in the moment, like this is a really special moment that will never happen again. Again, I listen to this track and think of Akiya in the courtyard. That's just what I associate it with. I feel like I almost didn't do that scene enough service in my Akiya video, because I cannot properly articulate everything that scene means to me. It's beautiful. Like, I find myself reduced to little more than baby talk talking about it, because it's just that beautiful, man, you know? That nostalgia-dipped scene, a call for better times. You know, she's keeping that time dear to her, and clearly wants to keep it at heart, clearly wants to keep her Nissan? Sorry, just head patting the Illya plushie I have in my lap at the moment. Which, speaking of lap, I can again not attest to the audio quality of this because I have the microphone in my lap right now, which, looking at the little lines in Audacity, it seems to be going alright. Jesus, this is 15 minutes already. Wild. Which, if it's not 15 minutes for you, it's because I edited down to remove all the interruptions, and whatnot. Semantics. Anyways, and the track, In the Moonlight again, adds a lot to that scene. You know, it's the first time in the visual novel that I personally recognized the music that was playing and identified with it. Like, still to this day, I listen to that track and feelings are conjured up in me. Feelings of nostalgia, feelings of really just wanting those simpler times. But at the same time, she knows, and I know, that you eventually do have to move forward. You have to, it's okay to reminisce on the past, it's okay to think about what ifs occasionally. But the problem comes from getting caught up in that. If you get caught up in that, you'll never go anywhere. And Akiya faced that problem right there. She clearly was nostalgic for the past, but more than that, in that one scene, her red dress... that one scene, her red dress, flowing hair, just looking back at Shiki. I think about that shit a lot. Almost as much as I think about someone else who longed for the past. Satsuki. Satsuki, even though it wasn't a big moment to Shiki, Satsuki kept that moment of being saved by him really near and dear to her heart, and unrequited love was born from that. And that's something else. Unrequited love. It started with Cordelia and Fire Emblem Awakening. I guess you could say that was my awakening to unrequited love. I find it a beautiful thing. The character, obviously, will have to grow past it at some point, but using that love as a source of inspiration to do wonderful things, it's inspiring in a sense. I'm not just saying that because all of my past relationships, failed relationships, have been unrequited. Man. But yeah, emotions, Satsuki. Satsuki gives me emotions. Like I said, Like I said, she kept that scene with Shiki near and dear to her heart. You know what? It's the track playing right now, so let's talk about it. Homesickness is the track I associate with Satsuki. I hear this track, and I think about her wanting things. Her wanting that one unreachable goal. A simple high school crush that will forever go unrequited until the remake comes out. If the remake comes out. And I finished Melty Blood recently as well, and it was depressing. I love the story in Melty Blood with Shion and Shiki, but part of me feels a longing for the Satsuki route. Like, why did this in particular have to take place after the Satsuki route? It's things like that, things like the plus disc, things like actively alluding to it in the bad ends of Tsukihime, Carnival Phantasm reducing her character to no one remembers me, and at this point I'm even worried that the Back Alley Alliance manga, which I haven't read yet, but assume has Satsuki in it. I fear that won't talk about her at fucking all, because she was on the disc for Melty Blood and had no presence in the plot, other than, I don't even think her fucking name is spoken. You're just supposed to pick up that this comes after the Yumizuka route, and of course, Shiki getting pissed off at the mere mention of her, of Shion talking lightly about Yumizuka, always makes my heart just melt. Because, again, certified Sachan simp. No, I just feel like it's a horribly missed opportunity to have some Satsuki-related content. The way it's presented is that she's still alive, I believe, though it was also kind of framed in a way that Shiki had to kill her and that fucked him up. Just, you get both from the scenes, and that's, again, one of the faults of not having the Satsuki route. It's just another tease. And then, after playing through the main story and being mildly happy with the allusions to Satsuki, but wanting more, I decided to play through her arcade mode, which in the original Melty Blood ends with her fucking thinking about being rejected. Thinking about being a non-character. Which fucking kills me. Because I love this character. She's cute. She reminds me of myself with the unrequited love, with the keeping one small moment and just growing from it, just looking back on it as this was the moment that I became who I am, that I found real meaning in my life. You know, I had that, it's not exactly along the same lines, but I found that urgency, that need to be creative in my life after reading through Fate Stay Night, Fate Hollow Ataraxia, and loving Illya's character. Now, do I kin that character? Do I kin Illya? No. She's just a character I can look to, admire, and find inspiration in, like Satsuki does with Shiki. Illya is my favorite character for this reason, but if I have to be completely honest, I identify way harder with Satsuki. And then once she becomes a vampire, not even of her own volition, once she becomes a vampire, she's stripped of her own volition in the first place. She can't now do what she wanted to originally. And even though it's a very twisted worldview, she takes that detriment, this predicament she's found herself in, and tries to turn it around to make it something good. You know, that's inspiring. Again, it's something I love to see in a character. No matter what comes her way, she always gets back up. While I doubt anyone actually keeps that motto up their entire lives, like, keeps to the motto of, no matter what happens, I always get back up. Because it's just fucking impossible. Everyone has a moment of weakness. Satsuki, in that regard, is very inspiring to me. You know? I see that character, and I see parts of myself. You know, I physically want to be Satsuki Yumizuka. I want to be Sa-chan. Though, that's not to say that I will get mad or angry at the detriment or the belittlement of her character. I mean, Type Moon's already desensitized me to that with the constant, non-stop, when Tsukihime was relevant, Satsuki slander. And then again, the Type Moon community desensitized it to me with the Illya slander, which I don't think anyone should get as intrinsically linked to their favorite characters, that if someone insults them, it's an insult to your personal standing. It's an insult to you as a human being. I think once you cross that threshold, you're too far in. You're too connected. And I say this standing from my glass house as I have defended Illya and Satsuki at the drop of a fucking hat. But if someone's just finding their own critiques with how their character was presented, finding, you know, just little things they didn't like, you know, that's all right. Criticism is all right. That's not an attack on you. Criticism is how things get better. Of course, most obvious fucking statement in the world, I guess. I fucking love Satsuki, and this was just an excuse to talk about her at length. And I'm gonna continue talking about her at length. But, ooh, coffee's almost empty. Anyways, then I played through Actress Again, Melty Blood Actress Again Current Code, and decided I wanted to get good at Yumizuka. I wanted to get Yumiduka as it's presented in Melty Blood. Still don't get that translation. It sounds stupid. Like, there's being accurate, and then there's just sounding dumb. Like, no offense to anyone who likes the name Yumiduka or Tusaka, but I can't be the only one who reads stuff like that and just laughs. It takes you out of the experience. Anyways, speaking of taking things out of the experience, reading through Yumizuka's arcade mode in Current Code, I once again ended up with a story of Yumizuka wishing she was an actual character. And, you know, reading through that, I found myself identifying with her more, because I wish she was an actual fucking character. Not to misconstrue the point, her interaction with Roa in that, where she essentially tells him, "You're just like me, long and forgotten by 80% of the fans." That's fucking hilarious. That shit's wonderful. Like, just because something's in bad taste doesn't mean it's not funny. You know, humor is subjective. I find that shit hilarious, but I get, there's also part of me that thinks it's sad that can't help but be like, man, if the remake even fucking happens at this point, I'm legitimately half convinced that the Yumizuka route will essentially be like it was presented in the Akiya route, wherein Yumizuka dies halfway through, and Shiki's left to pick up the pieces, except without any help from the main heroine, which, judging by Melty Blood, that might be the way it fucking goes. God, what did Yumizuka do to deserve that? Sweet, sweet Satsuki. Am I getting too involved in this? Am I getting too overly enamored with this? Maybe. Maybe I am. But I just can't help but think of what could have been, you know? Like, one of the points I had written down for this month, one of the topics I had written down for this month was, who got more screwed out of the route, Illya or Satsuki? The problem with that video is I would legitimately open it up with the phrase, "This isn't a contest, it's fucking Satsuki." And I've explained that at length, I think, so far. Like, Illya has been severely mistreated by Type Moon, mishandled. You know, the Heaven's Feel movies are a clear example of this, just blatant, "It was a day for Shiro and Sakura," when referring to fucking Dai Lorelei. Like, that's not Kino, man. That's not good. It's not good content. That's bad content. Horrible content. It's called, remember, just like my last video said, it's called Heaven's Feel 3. because it's the third route. The first two movies are irrelevant. They don't matter. They don't exist. Despite me looking at them right now, they belong in the garbage. But I'm not going to throw them in the garbage because there's some nice artwork in the art books. Saving grace. I guess the OST is nice as well, which call me out for my bad taste in music. As someone who exclusively listens to 10-hour versions of Renai Circulation, Platinum Disco, Orange Mint, someone who listens to 10-hour versions of Monogatari openings, exclusively the Tsuki-Bako OST, and loves the Shadow the Hedgehog music, call me out for having shit taste in music, but I think the OST in the Heaven's Feel movies is alright. It's not the best thing in the world. It's not the worst thing in the world like it's been made out to be, though. It's very alright music. Nothing about them really stands out, but I don't think it's a Kara no Kyokai copycat. It's just... It fits with what it's going for. I do wish more visual novel music got used, though, because the lack of Die Lorelei during Illya's sacrifice kind of hurt, but I've already talked about that. That scene, still fucking beautiful. Still beautiful. Back to Satsuki. That's what this video is about now. It's Illya month, but I'm talking about Satsuki. Because if I don't get these thoughts out, they are going to infect every video I make from here on out. And you know, even for talking about Satsuki, I've been all over the place. I've talked about the Akia route, I've talked about the Arcoade route, I've talked about the Tsukihime music at length here, which again, another video topic I've wanted to get out for a long time now, but never really... Again, it was one of those scripts that I never really could get off the ground, so I guess, in a sense, this is a cathartic piece. It's a cathartic way to get what I feel needs to be gotten out there. Plus, I'm not going to turn down simple content. Like, I need as many of these as I can get, which this style of video probably won't stick around. Or if it does stick around, I might start a second channel for it, because the stream of consciousness stuff, it's really cathartic, it's really nice to sit down and record. Like, right now, I am sitting in my computer chair, legs stretched out on a little stand thing. It's also a chair you can sit on, but it's low to the ground, with my Illya plushie just in between my legs, and I'm sipping on coffee. And of course, listening to music. Listening to the Tsukihime OST. Beautiful music. Specifically the Tsuki-Bako release, because, again, as I've stated multiple times throughout, except for In the Moonlight and Tsukihime, tracks 9 and 8 respectively, the Tsuki-Bako release is objectively the best in just every regard. To really hammer home the point that if you've followed me for any length of time, you're probably... clarification, to hammer in the point that if you've followed me for any length of time on anything that's not YouTube, you probably want me to shut up about the strings coming in. The strings that come in during the... after the initial introduction part, the bum bum bum... oh, way off key. You get the point. The strings that come in during the mid-portion, the... I want to say chorus, but I don't know if that extrinsically applies to instrumental music. Which it probably does. I'm probably way overthinking this, but the strings that come... semantics. The strings that come in during that part really just make the song work. Makes it all come together beautifully. Sadly, no other release got the memo, so the Tsuki-Bako release just stands alone as the best. And again, stuff like that applies to every other track. The original release is too MIDI, which it's still good music, mind you. That's no dogging on it. And then the Ever After release has a funny version of Phantom Dance, or Illusionary Dance. Another side note I wanted to talk about relating to the Tsukihime OST is that, much like the Fate Stay Night OST, depending on the source you're getting it from, all the tracks have different names. Like, Phantom Dance becomes Illusionary Dance. I know it by Phantom Dance, but apparently everyone just calls it Illusionary Dance, which is wild to me. And it's the same thing with the Fate Stay Night OST. For instance, you get Ever Present Feeling. The way I have it on my hard drive reads as Trapped Thoughts, which I do like Ever Present Feeling way more. It works better as a title, it illustrates what the song is about. Trapped Thoughts is like, it's a stillness. It's frozen. Ever Present Feeling conveys, that title conveys, this is something that won't leave me no matter how hard I try to forget it. Kind of like my feelings towards wishing there was a Satsuki route. No matter how hard I try to forget about it and just move on, it always seeps back into my life at every waking moment. And then, when I finally forget about it, I think about the Illya route, and I'm right back where I started, and God, it just keeps going and going and going and going and going and going! Anyways, back to Satsuki. I wish that she got more representation in things, but I'm not going to be broken up about it. I can be mildly displeased, sad at times, depressed, but I can be sad at times, but ultimately, if I want to see more Satsuki content, I'll just fucking make it myself. Much like I'm doing with Illya right now. If I want to see more Satsuki, I'll just myself work on making more Satsuki. It won't be the same. It will be clearly different from the original work. It'll be my own interpretation, therefore it's naturally going to be different. But I think there's merit in Sachan content, original Sachan content, and original Illya content by extension. I'm still actively working on that Illya route ad nauseum. Like, every day I open up the document and just, even if just one thing, I'll add a little idea for later on. Like, that document by itself is 60 pages at this point of just notes. Just nothing but notes. I haven't even started the writing process for it as a whole. Like, I've written out specific scenes and whatnot, and just to get a general flow of how the story would go, but in terms of overall, just writing it out front to back, I haven't really started on that. Like, I haven't written the opening scenes. Like, I'm gonna reread the fuck out of Heaven's Feel to really get a feel of how an Illya route would start from there. I've structured the route out front to back. I know how I want it to flow. I know where I want the story to go. Each turn, each little crevice of the story is already planned out. I just keep adding little ideas every now and again that I want to either expand upon or scenes that I want to write out. It's a really fun process, and even if just one thing, I've been keeping up with it a decent amount, I think. You know, maybe I'll start doing that with some Satsuki stuff. As disconjointed as this has been and all over the place, it's been really nice to just talk about Satsuki for this prolonged period of time. And the Tsukihime OST, and Illya, and Akiya, and Arcwade. And just everything. You know? I can't attest, once again, to the overall quality of this. I can't attest to how listenable it's going to be if you can follow what I'm saying. But I will say that if this is content someone, even one person, will listen to, then I'll just get my thoughts out there like this. Like, this obviously isn't the content I want to produce. This isn't the content that I actively want to pursue. This is more like just a chance for me to de-stress myself. I talked about at the end of the last video how I had a horrible headache from overwork. And that's from working on that video, the last video, just everything back to back to back. The past few days before today and half of yesterday, I was waking up, walking to my computer, starting either writing or editing, because my process is, if you can start out the day doing something creative, then you set the tone for the rest of the day. Because, you know, at that point, you're not having to start, you're just taking a break to eat breakfast, to shower, and whatnot. You know, looking at it from that angle, it's a lot easier to get back into the flow of things, which is my personal advice to anyone starting anything creative. If you want to do anything like this, if you want to do anything like video making, like art, I honest to God, think this would apply to anything. But if you're finding you lack the drive to do something, just wake up, immediately do something pertaining to it, and from then on, you don't even have to start. You're just taking a break. Because the hardest part about anything is starting. Once you start, at least for me personally, once I start on something, I realize, oh yeah, I love doing this, and it just flows like water from there. It becomes so simplistic from that point. The video editing process, the recording process, the writing process especially, has just become like second nature at this point, and I love that. That's what this month was for at the get-go, as well as just showing my overall love and adoration for this character, which, if you've seen any of these videos, clearly present. Oh shit, I need to get a Satsuki plushie. Oh my god, that would complete my life. Donate to Sleepy Crest. Donate to patreon.com/sleepycrest so that I can get my Satsuki fund going. That's a lie, I don't have a Patreon. I've said to myself, I will only start a Patreon once I've reached 1,000 subs. Like, that is the goal I've set out for myself. That's the point where I feel like I could be happy with putting a Patreon out there. Am I going to stop what I'm doing at any point? No. However, do I want to subsist off of it? Like, be able to live from what I'm doing? Abso-fucking-lutely. Like, that is the ultimate goal in all of this. The ultimate goal is to make money doing what I love to do. Which, even if I can't make a living off of it, I'm still going to do it. But, you know, it would be nice. Anyways, what was I talking about? Illya. Yeah, the writing process for this month. It's been stricken with a lot of strife and whatnot, but ultimately, I think a lot of the scripts so far have turned out alright. I think the videos so far have turned out wonderfully. I brought this up in the introductory video, but I legitimately think my videos work on a progression where each one is better than the last, and that's something I desperately hope to keep up. Except for maybe the Hollow Ataraxia relationships video. I feel like that was a bit under par compared to at least the changes in Unlimited Blade Works Are Horrid video. Like, honest to God, I worried that I peaked. I worried that I peaked for this month at that video. I really like everything in that. That's the standard of videos I want to make. Of course, I want to eventually get better recording equipment, better everything, a better recording environment, but that is the standard I want to adhere to in the meantime. As well, the one that came out last night, or this morning, it's still day 5, guys, don't worry. The character designs video has the editing that I would like to keep up in my videos. Because, it's such a dumb thing that I really like the backgrounds scrolling as the character sprites are presented. Like, I don't know if anyone else feels this, but it's just aesthetically pleasing to me. And I'm glad that's something I could pull off with my very rudimentary editing skills. But enough jerking myself off. I love Illya and Satsuki. I guess that's the ultimate point of this little podcast thing. That's the ultimate point of anything in life, honestly. If you can go through life loving Illya and Satsuki, you've kind of already peaked. Oh man. Anyways, I think that's gonna be it from me. Yeah, I don't want to end it off on that shilling tangent. Never mind. Illya, Satsuki. Kagetsu Toya, baby! Oh, what a perfect time for this OST to start playing. Alright, one last point, one last tangent before we go. Tsuki-Bako release, peak OST, but it's not the peak. It's not even close to the peak. Go listen to the Kagetsu Toya music. That right there, that is peak Civilization. That is the best OST I've heard in my goddamn life. It doesn't matter if you're listening to the original release in 2001 or the Tsuki-Bako release, which was released in 2003. The music, all around, wonderful stuff. In particular, of note, the only big difference I can tell between the two OSTs is track, I want to say track 6, known as Crash on my hard drive. I can't possibly tell you what the title on YouTube is, but just look up the Kagetsu Toya OST. It's the track that plays when Shiki steps into like the little world in between where the ground becomes flesh and whatnot. You know, it's that track. Which I believe this track actually sounds better in the original OST because it's more of like an oh shit moment. It's like things just hit the fan. It's loud, in your face, abrasive. Whereas the Tsuki-Bako release has more of a digital feel to it. It has more of an organic feel, which again can work in the context of the scene, but the original release had more of an Shiki's world has gone to shit, and now your speakers have gone to shit. You know, it works very well in the context of the story, and I've had to turn down my monitor multiple times, regardless of which version I'm playing. All very good music all around. The track that came into my headphones that elucidated this tangent within me is the track Girl, which plays during the dream segments where you learn about Lin, which... oh boy, Lin! That is a character I will have a field day discussing after the maids. Which, the maids, and by extension CL, are all characters that we'll have videos in due time. This month just got me a little sidetrack, I think. But, yeah. I have about 20 minutes edited of the CL analysis right now of a 33-ish minute video, so hopefully, if I get a few minutes out every day, that should be out within the next little bit. Which, again, adds to the headache factor of this month, but that's part of the fun. This month, I think, is going to be a fun month. I've already had lots of fun within everything I've made so far, and I hope you guys have felt the same way. Anyways, point of all this, I love Satsuki. I identify with her probably more than any other fictional character, but if you hate her, that's okay. I'm not going to look at anyone differently for not liking what I like, and I wish that was a mentality more people had, you know? Not everything has to be one-to-one, but you don't have to attack people for what they like either. When it comes to fiction, at least. Like, let people like what they want to like, but, I don't know, it's a very, very interesting concept to talk about. This part of the video is undoubtedly disconjointed, and as my thoughts about Satsuki and Illya slowly fade into the background to more philosophical elements of Twitter arguing, I think this is the perfect time to end it off. By the way, arguing on Twitter is irrelevant. Nobody feels good at the end. Nobody feels satisfied with themselves. Nobody's happy with what they've said. They always regret it immediately after, and that's why I have personally elected to not take part in any Twitter arguments if I can help it. Like, not everybody has the same viewpoint, and unless somebody is being personally attacked, I don't see the need to have arguments about characters. You know, about fictional characters, it's dumb. And about fictional stories. Like, people can like what they like, people can hate what they hate. You can analyze that, deconstruct, and think about that till your head plops off. But if you wrap yourself up in that culture, you're only going to get lost. You're only going to get angry at every little thing, and that's not a way to live a life. Don't spend your life picking up pitchforks and attacking people for not liking what you like. Don't do anything like that. Just fucking enjoy what you want to enjoy. It's fiction. It's not a hard concept to understand that people have things that they are interested in and want to see. Personally, I'm into character-related stories, character-centric stories, and that's why, even though the Arcuate route flounders in terms of an actual overall story, like Roa, the second half of that route is objectively ass. Honestly, honest to God, it is objectively a bad story. It's bad storytelling. But the character interactions drive it home, as well as me loving the Tsukihime music. Meanwhile, the CL route tells a better story, massive fucking quotation marks, because the character interactions in that route are horrible, but that's just a little teaser for the CL analysis, which you'll have to tune into next time on the Tsukihime playlist. Do I add this to the Fate or Tsukihime playlist? Fuck! Anyways, I've been going for almost an hour at this point. Probably will be cut down to like 50 minutes. I hope you've enjoyed this. Anyone who listens to it, it was really fun to just get my thoughts out, just kind of de-stress. Anyways, I'm off to write about Illya dojins, non-lewd, lewd ones might come later, but semantics. I'm off to write about the top 5 Illya dojins, as that will be the other video I'm aiming to get out today to get back on track. Anyways, to anyone watching this, I hope my voice has been relaxing. I hope you've enjoyed the past 50 or so minutes of content. Yeah, I'm gonna set the music to the Tsukihime OST with rain in the background, so hopefully that's nice to listen to. Anyways, I'll see you all later for day 6. Coincidentally, I'll see you later today. Peace.